it's really important that we use this time to explain to you exactly what we're doing, why it's different, why it stands a chance of success, and why the sum of the parts need to create a very substantial whole. And certainly from my point of view, the first thing I want to say is, it took me a while to get on board. I want to be honest. You know, these guys came to me over the course of a year and I kept saying no, right? I'm not a motorsports guy. You know, I'm a tennis guy, I'm a cricket guy, I love those sports. I'm now a motorsports guy for sure after he took me in the car at 200 kilometers an hour. I'm definitely a motorsports guy now, but...
I think every one of them was a motorsports person.
But my point is, getting involved for me was an objective decision. It wasn't, I love motorsports, I got to get involved. You know, certain sports I have much more affinity to and I would get involved anyway, but this one was really an objective decision. And it was really, you know, to do with the construct. You know, what these guys are doing is creating an ecosystem, not just a league. And I think that's really important. You know, I was lucky enough to be involved in the IPL on both sides as the vice chairman of the Rajasthan Royals and, you know, with IMG. And I think everything gets compared to the IPL. It's a bit like comparing the Grand Canyon to a crack in the wall, you know. The IPL sits in a different universe. And I think, but what's interesting is, you know, if you look globally, across the world historically, the number 2 to 6 sports generally garner about 40 to 60% of the total revenue of the number 1 sport. If that's true, we have a great opportunity. If you see how much money that IPL is generating. And I think there's still a big tussle for number 2. I know that there's the Kabaddi and the ISL, and they're both, you know, doing well and in a similar universe. But I think there's a huge opportunity for someone else to come in and do something of substance. I also think that what these guys are doing plays into the demographic dividend of India, and I'll explain that in a minute. But what really attracted to me was that this was just not a carbon copy of the IPL, let's do 8 franchises and blah, 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 blah. I mean, yes, that's one part of it. And as we've said, they're built on 3 pillars. So let's talk about the 3 pillars. There's the racing league, which is a franchise-based racing league, and the boys will go into that more. There'll be 2 events in the first year, one in Chennai, one in Delhi. They've done an amazing job having sold 6 franchises in the first year, which I think is, you know, phenomenal for a new league. But what's really interesting is the exciting user-friendly, consumer-friendly, viewer-friendly format. And I think they'll go into that in a bit more detail also. But that really attracted to me because it was deconstructing motorsports. I think motorsports has become very homogenous. And to make it viewer-friendly is really important. To make it interactive. We spend a lot of time with global head of Facebook and a bunch of other people talking about how do we make it more interactive and more appealing. So we're doing a lot of primary research as well as to make the whole format appealing. So pillar number 1, racing league. Pillar number 2, esports, which I think is, you know, everyone talks about esports all over the world. Everywhere I go, New York, London, Berlin, everyone's talking about esports. But I think no one's really captured that space in India. The great thing about motorsports, esports, is it's a bit like flight simulator. You can go from esports to track. I think 3 of the Formula 1 drivers now have been gamers in the past, right? So the opportunity to discover talent through the esports, I think, is amazing. They're taking it to, you know, 8 cities and through malls and colleges, and I'll explain that to you as well. But I think that plays in the demographic dividend of India. What I love about the esports too is equal opportunity for men and women. The girls and the guys can participate on the same level. So I think the ability for us to uncover female drivers. I mean, I don't know if you just read this week. There's a Colombian female driver who's going to drive in Formula 1, and it would be unreal if we could find a driver here that maybe, you know, ended up going to Formula 1. It doesn't have to be a guy. It could be a woman. I mean, you know, I think that so the esports, the fact that it's egalitarian, the fact that it plays in demographic dividend, I loved it, and I think the icing could become the cake, and the cake could become the icing in this case. And then there's the Speed Summit, which, you know, is really a combination of fan fests, corporate golf. It's VIP, it's celebrity, it's experiential. I went to the first Speed Summit, which is where he took me in the car, and it was really unreal. I mean, I think, you know, it's exciting and it's interesting and it's interactive, and so 3 pillars, all distinct but integrated, which really appealed to me. The ability to attract, from a commercial point of view, because I know you'll ask me about that at some point, the ability to attract both endemic and non-endemic brands, I think, is also really interesting. Of course, you're going to get tyres and oil and all that sort of stuff, but, you know, the ability to attract non-endemic brands, I think, is very real here across the 3 pillars. And I think from a commercial point of view, because ultimately everything has to be commercially viable, I think is important. And then these three guys, I think made a compelling argument. They are amongst the three hardest working guys that I've known in sport, and I've worked in this for a long time. And it's really important. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have a great plan, but it all comes down to execution. And I think that was, I spent a lot of time with them, and they're very passionate. Aditya and Arman come from a genuine racing background. This is not a couple of guys that just said, "Oh yeah, let's try this and see what happens." They really believe in it, and Abhi, has worked in sport at a very young age and been very successful, and also had challenges, which I think is really important because in my career I've had lots of challenges, and I think you come out of those much stronger. And I think the combination of these three guys is really appealing to me. And I think that, and they go back a long way. They're friends for a long time, and they get each other. So I've seen them work really hard, and I think that for me was really important. So I'm completely I'm really excited by this. From where I came on maybe 6-7 months ago, and from where it was to where it's come has been phenomenal. We kick off the esports tomorrow, and I think that's really exciting. And I believe this could be a really significant moment for Indian sport. And I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. Abhi, you talked about the last 6-7 months as well. So, Abhi, I'm going to come to you. What has that journey been like, establishing what we have today, which is a reality? And just talk to us a little bit about that journey and the stakeholders involved as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sohail. Thank you all for coming out. I think Ravi summed up most of what I was going to tell everyone. But no, I think I'll keep it brief. We started this journey 2 years back. There are a lot of things that go into creating something in motorsports, and from day one, we've never looked at it as just another league, but as a media property that can get different moving parts together. And I don't think it will be without the support of the guys who are backing us, our shareholders, who are a diverse set of guys. And all of them have added some strategic value throughout the journey.
What we could do is let's have a quick look at it as well, guys. Sorry, I'm going to move you. You're all fit gentlemen, so I can move you all. So that's a brief look at the
shareholders in X1, and each of them add very strategic value, and the vision for them as well is backing us long term.
Yeah.
And that's been a guiding force for us to be able to do this, and with people like Ravi on board to support us and advise us, I think it's been phenomenal the last 2 years getting here.
And what's it been like with those two next to you, Arman and Aditya? I know we all know them a long way. As I said earlier, they're soft-spoken guys.
Yeah.
But tell us a bit more about what they like from the business side of it, and also the passion.
I think as athletes, they have that passion. There is that determination anyway as athletes between the both of them, and I think that converts into business as well. Of course, business acumen of Ravi is guiding us, all of that. But I think the natural